Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be looking over A Distant Soil by Coleen Doran from 1991. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work. This is Random Access. It's a full-size, full-color, 12-page comic book that I produce every month. And it's up to issue 29, actually, which will be coming out shortly. And it has backup stories, usually by Paul Courtjohn and various other artists. Sometimes Chris Knox, sometimes not, depending on whether he gets his stuff in or not. But check it out. You can get this at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin for $3 a month. Or you can go to my website, alexanderturbin.com. Or you can message me at alexturbin0441 at Yahoo, which is my email. Or message me at alexturbin0441 at Instagram. And this is the latest issue actually that came out last month, Random Access, and that has the H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard as the main characters, and they're trying to foil some dastardly deeds. So there you go. So we're looking at A Distant Soil. So I have a little bit of exposure to A Distant Soil. I used to have some graphic novels. I believe I sold them on Amazon back in the day. But which they were really nice graphic novels. They had really nicely printed paper and stuff. And I really, it's the same ones, the same company that did Thieves World. And it's some really great printing. But I don't know what happened after that. This is a continuing story. She was in lots of different publishers. She went from Area to Warp Graphics to I think Image. I think she's still publishing A Distant Soil to this day. Maybe, I'm not entirely sure if it's still going on. But like I said, it's Coleen Doran, and she writes and illustrates it. And I'm not entirely sure why I haven't gotten the rest of the issues, because I really do enjoy it. It's really fantastic, especially her art. But the writing is pretty good too. I mean, it's slick and it's nicely done. It's understandable, like it's not confusing at all or anything like that. But this one, we're going to be going through the book, and then we'll go back and look at the stuff. So Coleen Doran, she's done some other stuff for Marvel and DC. Well, I'm not entirely sure about Marvel. I know that she did one thing with Alan Moore that I haven't read, which is one of the very few things of Alan Moore's that I haven't read. But she did a few issues of Sandman with Neil Gaiman, and so she's done some mainstream Marvel and DC stuff, like I said, and she's very good. She's very professional. Even if you don't love her art, you've got to be able to see that anybody with eyes can see that her art is very professional, very slick, very nice, and I personally love it. I love her art. I think it's fantastic. Like I said, this is from June 30th, 1991, but I don't know if it's a reprint. It's actually volume 2, so I think it might be a reprint, because I think I saw this in the graphic novel, which is also a reprint. So I think a lot of this stuff is reprinted from volume 1, and it says for 8 issues, so she did 8 issues a year. Reprinted from 1987 and 1991. So this is 1991. So I don't know if she added some more artwork to it or something like that. But I think I remember this from the graphic novel. If anybody is an aficionado of A Distant Soil, please let me know, because I'd kind of like to know the timeline and the order in which I should, if I see these out in the wild, if I should pick them up, because I definitely think I would pick them up if I see them out there. I know I would pick them up if I saw them in the dollar store, dollar bin. I would definitely pick them up. Would I pick them up for $4 or $5 from eBay? Maybe not. I'm not entirely sure why not, because they definitely deserve it. But let's get into the book, and then we will see if you think that it deserves it as well. So it starts off with this panel, and this is fantastic because she totally could have used up this space to put some sort of exposition or something like that, and really lay on the wordage and kind of tried to give it an atmosphere or a backstory or something, and it kind of could have used it, but since the story is paced the way it is and put together the way it is, it really it doesn't need any of that exposition or that reference and stuff. As you know, I usually like in the beginning page for some sort of description of what's going on before. And since this is volume 2, I kind of think that there should have been maybe, or maybe just an explanation of how this is different than volume 1. Is it different than volume 1, and all of that kind of stuff. I kind of would have appreciated that a little bit, but this is issue. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. This is issue 1, so we don't need any kind of explanation of what happened before, although it would have been nice. So I think, like I said, I think this is just a reprint of the first issue or the first issues or something like that. So I'm not entirely sure we need an introduction. But like I was saying, she could have added all kinds of wordage or some dialogue or something like that. But she's going for a very distinct feel in this first page. Very solitary, very lonely, very dark, and it totally you totally get it with the illustration. The picture is worth 1,000 words, and this is worth even more than words, because you can kind of see in her body language, in the fact that there's just a bed, just a table, and nothing else in the room really that you can see. You can see the expression of her face. It's telling you something that you can't read it. You can't read it and say, oh yes, she's feeling lonely. This is the comic book medium at its finest, because she's using her illustrative powers, her drawing knowledge, her all of that stuff. And yes, she could have combined it with words, but she doesn't need to. Because it tells the perfect story all by itself, just this one page. But then it goes into the story where it's this girl from the first page, and she's it's her birthday or something, or she was good, so the doctors are letting her have a visitor, which is her brother, and they are having this reunion, and they're having this party or whatever, and it's very easy to glean that they're in some sort of mental hospital. And later on it shows it, but you don't really need that, because it's just maybe some sort of a trope from a horror movie kind of thing, where you tell the story and stuff, and then you kind of zoom in to the sign that it's a mental hospital or something. She didn't really need that, but it adds a little bit to the story and kind of gives an encapsulation of what she's doing, what she's trying to do. But it's a very nice story. Only 3 pages. There's it's very emotional, and it's very touching, because they genuinely show affection for each other, brother and sister. You can see, and you can also see some of the fantastic line work that Coleen is using in her drawings. And like I said, I'm going to go back and talk about the artwork, because it is really fantastic. There's different not layers or whatever for Coleen's work, because she did this and then she went on and did a bunch of other stuff. I actually prefer this more than the stuff that she did in Sandman in particular. That's what I really know her from. I think the inker, if she's inked by somebody else, it kind of loosened up a little bit, and I don't like it as much as this. I like this. I like her really tight pencils, or really tight inking, and so she did the inks, she did the everything. So it's just written and illustrated by Coleen. So she does all of the stuff, all of the inks, and I mean, her inks are just beautiful. I will go into some of the things that I don't love about her illustrations, even though that is just nitpicking. It's just really nitpicking because her art is beautiful. It reminds me a lot of Arthur Adams. I will see a lot of stuff, especially later on, that really reminds me of Arthur Adams, especially in the face, in the faces and stuff of the women. So they have some sort of mental powers. It's kind of obvious. Everything here becomes very obvious, and you don't really have to. She didn't have to say they're talking to each other with mental powers. Yes, the different word balloons. The only thing that I would say is that it's really hard to see who is talking to who. I assume that these two are from him and these two are from her, and it kind of goes that way. But sometimes the word balloons are a little they're not even word balloons, they're mental balloons because they're talking to each other psionically or psychically. And sometimes the word balloons are a little bit, or psychic balloons are a little bit hard to place with the character. So I kind of would have liked a little bit of a tail to show exactly who it is that they're talking about. So they're in the psychic ward. They're obviously being watched very carefully, and you realize that they have these powers, and they're probably being held against their will in this psychiatric ward. And so you're just kind of assuming that this is going to pan out a lot like most other 80s shows like this, 80s stories. And I have something like that. The Forlorn, the characters are in a psychiatric hospital. But so it's a little bit of a trope, but it's okay because this came out in 80 something, and 80, when was this reprinted from? 87. So I mean, this is where the tropes are coming from. So they're talking to each other. You can tell the orderlies or the people watching them have a little bit of a distaste for them. There's one of them smoking, and the boy asks him to kind of stop smoking and stuff, and he does do it begrudgingly. And it really goes through because, and again, she could have totally used some sort of writing. She could have put it in her writing, which is really, really great. It's so great when a writer artist of a comic book chooses to do something in illustrating or versus the writing. A writer is obviously going to put the dialogue in here or whatever. The artist in her, the comic book artist, because she is definitely a comic book artist. She's not just a regular artist. She thinks in illustrative words, illustrations and text. She thinks in a visual style. I'm quite certain she thinks in a video. Like her mind must have images of either still images or video images in her brain just as she's working on these comic books, because she puts together these visuals along with the storyline, along with the dialogue and the text and whatever, and it really comes together perfectly. And she knows when to use which thing and not to use the text. She shows him, he's begrudgingly putting out the cigarette, kind of slowly stomping it out. He doesn't want to do it. The brother's asking him and kind of giving him a side eye. So there is very tense angst from the children to the people watching them. So they keep having these their discussion, the boy and girl talking brotherly stuff, and one of them is talking about his powers, either his powers. See, this is the part where I kind of wish that there was a tale to either him or her. I don't know who is moving this, whether it's him or her. I believe that it's her, and she's saying that she can use her powers and stuff in a more precise way, and she's not quite as afraid of using her powers before. He does something to her to kind of make her upset, and I believe that it's when they were captured. So again, she doesn't use the text of then they were captured or anything like that. She just kind of uses the art to its fullest form, I guess. So she doesn't get knocked out, but she's worked up or something, and he gets worked up, and the orderlies jump in because they know that this can go bad anytime, because they know she has powers. They know that they both have powers of some sort, and they're trying to keep it under wraps. But the kids have had enough, and they decide to break out, and she's using her powers. They've probably talked previously because things are a little bit too worked out for them to just to be off the cuff. This guy's going to get knocked out. This guy's going to get knocked out. They're going to blow the cameras. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. So I'm thinking they had spent a little bit of time before saying, hey, let's break out at this time. So they have a little bit of a plan, a little bit of a skeletal plan anyway. They get out. The emergency or the alarm is rung. They tried to stop him, but they can't. And so they're just kind of running through the halls looking for some of the things that they want before they can escape. There's guns. There's people with guns that are trying to stop them because they know the kids are dangerous or whatever, and they're trying to control them. Later on, it's also said that they were taking samples and specimens and trying to use their DNA to create new creatures of new people like these, or study them or something like that. But the boy has her destroy everything before they leave, which is a good thing. He's going through all of his stuff, finding his notebook and stuff because he's written down in his journal the things that have happened to him and stuff. And they're just kind of getting as much stuff as they can before they try to escape. And he just wants this blown up before they get out of there. This is the last hurrah of the orderlies and or officers or whatever they are. They're trying to keep them under wraps, whatever. And so this is like the last thing where the boy touches the guy and he kills him, and that's his power apparently. I think all of the powers before this was the girls, and so they just kind of go through that a little bit of what's his power? Is it just to kill people and stuff like that? So they escape. I don't know why she doesn't do this though. Let's get out of here is the last dialogue that he uses. I'm not entirely sure why she doesn't show them running out of here. Why isn't the boy and the girl holding hands, running out of here? I kind of think that might have been something that she should have done. But at the same time, you can see that the text here, not composition, the exposition is kind of it's handwritten. You can tell that it's part of his journal. So maybe this is like supposed to be a long time ago. So that's like a zooming in or zooming out of where they were, because it does say, I don't think it says 6 months. No, it's not 6 months. This is like almost directly after, because they're on the streets. He's got a black eye from this. Yeah, it must be from this, but it doesn't show it here. So maybe she could have used an editor a little bit, and they could have said, hey, show the black eye here. But it's got a black eye here. So it's showing that they've had the ruckus of what has happened, and they're living on the streets or whatever. And he's still working on his journal, trying to get out there what has happened to them in their short life, because they've obviously been stolen from their family and experimented on and all of that kind of stuff. So they're scared, they're huddled together, they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go, and they're just kind of confused, and they're on the street. She can break into machines, telephone machines or whatever, and steal the quarters and stuff, which is not too bad. She probably could have done a lot worse. Could have broken into a bank or something. But they're being followed, and they're always being wary. So I don't know if they were really being followed, or it was just a couple guys who were behind them, but she knocked something over, made them knock over. He thinks it's funny, so they're kind of just having a little bit of a humor moment. It's not too humorous, and it's not goofy, so it's not like a Marvel or this modern Star Wars goofy, which I'm going to go into a whole thing of the goofiness of Star Wars and why it doesn't really have a place in Star Wars. But then they're being shot at, but it's not guns. It's not blam, blam, blam. It's and it's not zap. So we don't quite know what it is yet. It's just kind of blast, some sort of blast coming at them, and so they're on the run again. There, something tells me they're always going to be on the run. The pace of this comic is really nice because yes, they were on the run in the beginning, but they were kind of stationary, and then they kind of went on the run, and then it just continues on there. So the pacing is really nice, where it's a stationary on the run, kind of stops a little bit, and then is on the run again. So it's really good, a nice pace, gives you a chance to breathe and to have a little bit of a recollecting of what just happened, and a time to really kind of focus on what's happened. And really, when you're making a comic book, I don't know if I do this or not. I mean, I can tell other comics or whatever, but if it's my own, I'm not entirely sure that I do this either. I try to do this where you have a nice pace to your storyline, where it's giving you time to breathe. It's action, story, action, breather, calming down time, action, kind of that kind of a pace. So they're on the run. She trips or something, and it's really upsetting. So she goes crazy. He goes crazy. I think this is his powers. I think he wipes out whoever's following them, maybe kills them. But I think this flowing kind of energy power is his, and hers is more of the more of this kind of thing, where it's hexagonal. It reminds me of the Scarlet Witch's hexagon hex powers. I don't know how you say her stuff. But again, they get away. They kind of slow down. He's breathing hard. She's got her hurt ankle, and they really don't know what's going on. And then they're found out by somebody else, and it's a third threat. But this is just some dudes. They think that they're a threat, but really the dudes, they're just, they're an old 80s gang, I guess, with their jean jackets and stuff. But they're just some kids and hanging out, and maybe they got in a little bit of trouble. But they're like, hey, you're okay. We're not going to hurt you and stuff. But the two kids have been through so much, they're not going to believe anything. They're not going to believe anybody that says that they're not in trouble or whatever. They think that they always constantly have to be on the run. So they just keep going with this gang member or whatever, where he's like, okay, it's okay. And then a cop comes in, which of course, this is very tropey with the gang member, the inner city gang member, and then the cop and stuff. But that is perfectly okay, because it moves the story along, and they have a place in the story. And everybody uses this kind of tropey thing. Maybe there's a prostitute who's good hearted, or something like that. It's perfectly okay to use those vehicles in a way, because no stories are brand new, and sometimes you just need a little bit of something to get by. Again, they're attacked by these people, and eventually you see that it's aliens. They're using some sort of alien beams or something, and we don't know what happens. There's a flash of light. Because the aliens are saying, give up the kids, and the cop is like, no, we're not going to do it, and the gang member kids like, hey, maybe we should, I don't know, and then things kind of go crazy, and they all get knocked out. I'm assuming that's part one. I don't know if this was actually reprinted from 1987, and this is new material, or it almost does look like it's new material, because you can almost see a difference in her artwork. And either way, this is beautiful stuff. But then she ratchets it up to another higher level. The amount of detail in the leaves and the bird and the people, it's a flashback. And it's them as young kids before they were stolen from their family, and it's showing the dad, and I mean, look at the amazing leaves, and I love how there's no border around this. Sometimes I don't love that. If the whole thing was no borders, I think I might have been a little bit not into it. But it's just this one splash page, and it's like you're going through. Actually, I think this is that's what it is. I think that this is because here in the back they have In stores August, the Distant Soils 40-page second issue features the second installment of the new Distant Soil graphic novel Seasons of Spring, a special non-ADS short story written by fan favorite author Joe Duffy. So I think this is Seasons of Spring written by Joe Duffy, I think this is newer material, and this was 1987. So I think this is 1991, and the other stuff is not 87. I'm not sure. If anybody knows differently, please let me know. The faces are a little bit crisper. They're not as stationary, which previously they were really good, but they were very stationary. A lot of her emotions were not quite as believable and or expressive as they are here. So it goes to the father and son. They're having a day out, and then they come back to the family. And this is very much like the Power Pack or something like that, where the family is just having a dinner. They're going to have a dinner, and it's showing that the kids are growing and having powers and stuff, and the mom and dad are in love, and it's really just the perfect family, and everybody loves everybody. The kids are causing all of these ruckus with getting into stuff and talking back and arguing with each other and stuff, and that's really it's a satisfying read because you're really into it. It's really truly believable that these kids are interacting with the parents and with each other, and it reads like a real family. The panels are a lot smaller than this first, although this part is pretty small. I think when she's trying to cram, no, what am I saying? No, she uses a lot of panels. This is 6 panels, 4 panels. I guess there's a difference. Yeah, she crams in a lot of panels in her pages, and but it doesn't look cramped or anything. I mean, look at this. This is beautiful. I would have given this more pages, but then she wouldn't have been able to fit in all of this other dialogue and story and stuff like that. So bad on me, because that works perfectly. That's perfect. I would have messed that up and made the establishing shot more. Actually, I probably would have added it to maybe this page or something like that. But anyway, this is beautiful. It's beautifully done, perfectly done. And I probably would have messed it up. So the little girl from the beginning, the boy and the girl, this is the flashback, obviously. And that she's going to do something that she shouldn't do, because she keeps, reaching up for this cloth or napkin or something, and she keeps talking about it, and the parents aren't watching her and they aren't paying attention to her and stuff. And she finally pulls it down. It's going to smash all over or burn her and stuff. So she uses her powers to kind of move everything out of the way and keep it from hurting her and stuff. And so they have a little bit of a family discussion. There's a mess. The kids are worked up. The dad's like, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay." And then they put them all to bed, or no, they're putting them all to bed. They're kind of winding down from the evening, and where it was this big hubbub because the girl made all this stuff happen. And then the mom and dad are kind of just putting the kids to bed and getting ready for bed themselves. And then they have a little bit of a discussion about whether they want more kids and powers and stuff. And this is right here. This is where really looks really Arthur Adams-ish. That's really fantastic. It's beautiful. It's really so smooth. And then they just kind of go to bed, and they I guess they're going to have sex. Because they're talking about having more kids. I love her faces. They're so beautiful, and her expressions are really fantastic. Really beautiful artwork, and it just kind of ends with them talking about their family and the things that are to come and stuff. And so it's really a quiet family setting. before the shit hits the fan and all kinds of stuff happens that destroys the family setting. So the writing is really crisp, really nice. I think I would have liked a little bit of exposition because all told in dialogue, which there's nothing wrong with that because the world doesn't live on exposition. There's not somebody in the background narrating your life. It's all dialogue. Life is really dialogue, and I think that's what a lot of artists, a lot of comic book artists rely on, and that's kind of what I rely on too. Some of it, you have to put in a little bit of exposition and stuff. But I really loved her dialogue. I love the pacing of her story. It's really, really engaging and really not hard to read at all. It's very flowing. You go from one panel to the next panel to the next panel to page, really flowing and interesting. You're never bored, because there's intermittent action and intermittent slowdown. So there's really nice pacing, and the dialogue really flows nicely. They have their own voices. They're a little bit too caring sometimes, the brother and sister, because that becomes a little bit unbelievable, but not completely. It's just, maybe they're really truly loving in whatever. The storyline, as far as having a few tropes, that's okay. I'm okay with that. It's probably just moving from one storyline to the next. I mean, they have to go through these misadventures and encounter the aliens that are attacking them or trying to find them. So really having these kind of tropes is perfectly okay. So I dig the writing. I think it's really good. I enjoyed it. It's a little bit, I'm going to hate to say this, it's a little bit forgettable. I read this back in 92, 91, 92, 93, and I don't remember it. And if something is really exceptional, then I really remember it. I remember reading Preacher, number one. I remember that, off the cuff. But I don't remember this. I don't remember the characters. I don't remember the storyline. So it's a little bit on the forgettable side, and I hate to say that because it is really well done. But there's a lot of things that are well done that are kind of become forgettable too. So it's really nice, story-wise, plot-wise, dialogue-wise. It's a good read. It's a good, enjoyable read, and I recommend it as a reading. Art-wise, it's beautiful. She does beautiful, gorgeous expressions, figures, backgrounds. The only thing I would say that is a little bit missing is her figures or characters or whatever. There's no real light sources. She's not using any kind of blacks or anything. Only when it's really, really very, very specific, like here in the shadows or whatever, and her hair and stuff. But other than that, she's using a little bit. That's probably the only place that she has shadows and shading, in a very specific way, which, that's perfectly okay. It doesn't, her figures and characters are very distinctive from the backgrounds, so she doesn't need that to differentiate between the characters and the backgrounds. You really only need the blacks if your stuff is really highly detailed, and then you need something to kind of be distinct in the characters versus the background. But it doesn't need it. Her backgrounds are really fantastic. I think this really looks better in color. I remember the graphic novel was in color, and I really kind of think I enjoyed it a little bit more in color than the black and white. Not to say her black and white stuff isn't great, because the line work is fantastic. One of the things I would say is I think I would have enjoyed this a little bit more if she had used a little bit less panels. Her art could have exploded a little bit more and been a little bit more three-dimensional. Not to say that it's stale or to say that it's flat or anything, but it's certainly less panels would have been a little bit better, I think, just in my personal opinion. The second story I think is even better art-wise than the first story. This really has no shadows or shading or anything like that. It's just such distinct line work. It's a little bit like Jeff Dare, where he doesn't do any kind of blacks or shading or shadowing or anything like that. But it's fine. It's great. some of the stuff that she's really good at, because I mean, her line work, her inking is so beautiful, is so clean, so crisp. There's not a single line that doesn't connect where it shouldn't connect. And she uses such minute details in her backgrounds. Her backgrounds are so intricate and ornate that, and every piece, I'm wondering if she's using reference in her own kitchen. Like, is this her own kitchen, or is this just reference from magazines? It kind of looks like it could be reference from like a Good Housekeeping or something like that. But I mean, look at these, the apples, and then the banana pieces, and then the bread and the sugar snacks, and the box with the barcode. There's every kind of little detail, and it really shows that she's really paying attention. The phone is perfectly placed, and the characters. My only problem is the eyes look a little bit, maybe they're all supposed to be super blue, and that's perfectly possible. Her eyes would have look better in color. But that's, like I said, it's nitpicking, because her art is gorgeous, and she only gets better and better as her career progresses. Like I said, so much of her stuff looks like a little bit like Arthur Adams, and Arthur Adams is obviously one of my favorite artists. Her hair specifically, you look at Arthur Adams' hair, and maybe he emulated her, or she emulated him, or something like that. I think it's a little bit more that she would emulate him, because he had a little bit more exposure than she did at the time. But either way, it's beautiful. Her hair is beautiful. Almost everything, every aspect of her work is beautiful, and it's just really great. And I wholeheartedly recommend it. For a grade, I'm going to give this a... I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard, because it's very accomplished, and I've said a whole bunch of really good things about it. But it is a little bit forgettable. Like, the storyline just doesn't really resonate with me as like an exceptional storyline. Maybe because of the lack of exposition. You read Frank Miller, and he's got all of this stuff other than the dialogue going on that really sets the tone for all of his storylines and stuff, and it really adds to the whole comic in a whole, as a whole. I'm going to give this 9. I'm going to give this 9 mostly because of her art. The story isn't bad. The dialogue isn't bad. The writing isn't bad. It's good. It's good. It certainly doesn't drag it down, but the art really is 9 worthy. It could even be more than that. In the back, it's probably 10 worthy. But really, I'm going to say it's 9. I'm going to say it's a 9. This comic as a whole, I think, is a 9. So I really enjoyed it, and let me know what you guys think. If you're new to the channel, this is exactly the kind of stuff that I review. Go over indie comics from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and or just weird stuff or different stuff that I think everybody should be more intertwined with, or whatever. So I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too, or if you didn't, please let me know. I love hearing you guys' comments. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and all of that cool stuff. But like I also said, the more important than that to me is the comments. I really love hearing your comments. And if you've read A Distant Soil, if you hate it, if you love it, please let me know. I'd love to have a dialogue about it. So this is Monday. I'll see you again on Wednesday with me and Joe. We're going to have our artist comparison. And this week, are still up in the polls is Mark Silvestri and Stephen Platt, and so you can go to my YouTube page, and it's a poll up there along with all the other artist comparisons. And we're going to be going through 2 new artists this Wednesday. So go cast your vote on who you like more, Silvestri or Stephen Platt, and let everybody know. Because it's super fun to talk about these different artists and these different storylines and stuff. So thanks for watching, and have a great week, and I'll see you on Wednesday. And until then, keep on creating.